Hello everyone, and welcome back to 80 English Tutorials. This is your host and mentor Avnish, and in today's video, we are taking up the second chapter, the second poem from your Rhapsody text for class 11th ISC, and we are taking up Why I Like the Hospital by Tony Hogland. So let us first discuss about the author, the poet. And I've already told you that if I feel anything like that you should know about the author, I will tell you. Otherwise, we'll just skip the introduction to the author, to the poet. Here, I'm feeling like that you should know about the author. That is why I'm telling you. But in other cases, we'll see that if we have to know about the author or not. Because generally in ISC exams, you're not asked about the authors. So here I'm just telling you about the author so that you can get a brief idea that in what consequences and what situations he wrote the poem. So Tony Hoglan was born in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, America. He also suffered from pancreatic cancer, due to which he has to visit the hospital frequently, and as a byproduct he wrote this poem narrating the things he experienced while he was in the hospital. He died in October 2018. So, as the title is, Why I Like the Hospital. So, hospital is something which cannot anyone like, right? Whenever I speak the word hospital, what comes to your mind? It is, it has its own identification as illness, injuries, and sometimes even to the extent of death. And generally, a sense of pathos. Pathos is a new term to you all. I'll explain in the while I'll be explaining you the poem, so I'll explain you there only. And also something, it hospital gives you a vibe which is very sad, melancholic, negative, sorrowful. So all these things, except if it is the case if someone is born or so, but more often it is regarded as something very sad and sorrowful. So why can someone like hospital? This allows the reader to develop a sense of interest, that why, how can someone like the hospital? So let's read the poem. So this itself grabs the attention of the of the people, that okay, now come and read me. So jokes apart, why I like the hospital, and the very first line, it starts with because. So it is a conjunction. He answers his own question, that is, he has asked in the title, why I like the hospital, because. So he continues like that. So anyhow, we'll discuss later on about that. So you have to understand that he himself was suffering from pancreatic cancer, and he had to visit hospitals daily, approx, we don't know. But can you imagine that he being in that situation, then he noticed all those things which we are going to read in the poem, and then he wrote it into a beautiful poem. So there it goes. We come to introduction of the poem. It has been taken up from his collection Turn Up the Ocean, and in this poem he explores the loneliness of severe illness, impending death, by using both satire and grief. So he is all the time, he will be, you'll see that he taunts the hospital. He calls the hospital as something which sees the patient as you know, a body that can give you profit, and he calls the hospital a commercial place. All those things, he calls the patients as customers. So all these things, he taunts the hospitals like that. So there is also satire, and in the same way, the words he used, the way he expresses the illness of certain people is show gives a sense of sorrow also. So that is grief. He satirizes the apathy of the near and dear ones of the patients, as well as the present day healthcare system that looks at a patient as a source of making profit. So here it goes the satire, and there when it was the apathy of near and dear ones of the patients, there it goes the grief, the sorrow part. He creates pathos throughout the poignant depiction of the pain and suffering experienced by the patients in the hospital that arouses pathos. Now, what is pathos? Pathos is a sense of, sad, sorrow. It is an expression of grief. That is pathos. What is poignant? Poignant is, you know, again, it is something which is evoking a sense of sadness or regret. Sadness of what? That okay, we are in hospital as a patient and no one came to meet us. We'll see all these things in the poem. Then we come to themes. Themes, as per my pattern, I always read the poem and then I'll connect the themes to the poems and then we will do the theme. So first we'll do the poem, and then we'll come back to this theme part. Key points, let's quickly understand the pattern, the all these things, the structure of the poem. It is a 34 line poem in which you have first three stanzas are of 4 lines each, then you have the fourth stanza as of 6 lines, and then again you have 4 stanzas of 4 lines each. So there it makes 34 lines. It's written free verse or blank verse, that is, it does not follow any rhyme scheme, and it follows enjambment. Enjambment, I hope that you know. If not, then you can please listen to me. So, whenever enjambment is a poetic device where a line of verse continues its meaning into the next line without any punctuation at the end of the first line. I hope that you understood. See, whenever we are writing any stanza, suppose the first line extends, suppose the first line ends, and the first line it continues in the second line even. The first line, we didn't put an end to the first line, but we shifted our text to the second line and we didn't put any full stop there. We ended the line in the second line or whatever. The line is being continued. It is the same line as per grammar, but as per the text, the way it is written, it continues to the next line even. So that is enjambment. When we'll come to the poem, I'll explain you again. Tone, the tone of the speaker is obviously sad and depressing. It poignantly describes the suffering of patients in a hospital that arouses pathos. I hope that you know, I hope that you have noted down the meaning of poignantly and pathos even. Title of the poem, again, let's start with the poem and then we'll come on to the title of the poem. We'll start the poem. Because it is alright to be in a bad mood there. So, as I've told you earlier also, the poem, it starts with because, a conjunction. Generally, poem or any text, it starts with a article or a noun, but it never starts with a conjunction. Why conjunction? Because he's continuing to answer his own question that he has already asked in the title of the poem. Why I like the hospital, and then he goes on answering because, and then he goes on to elaborate the reasons. So because it is alright to be in a bad mood there. So imagine you are in a park sitting, you are crying or whatever, you are in a bad mood, you are upset. People will come ask you what happened, and they will sort of again, you know, they will help you to go throughout your uh, pain and everything. They will help you remember it again, and this is nothing which you like, correct? This is no one likes. अब मैं किसी के जख्म को कुरेदूंगा, so this is not liked by anyone. If I am upset, leave me alone. So this sense of, people will come ask you why are you upset. This sort of social thing is not there in hospital, because hospital is a place where you can freely, if you are in upset, if you are in bad mood, if you are upset, no one cares. Everyone have their own tensions about their loved ones, and no one will come and ask you what happened, why you are so sad. No, no one will come. So he goes on expressing that because it is all right to be in a bad mood there, कोई आएगा नहीं आपके जख्म को कुरेदने के लिए. So that is the sense. Slouching along through the underground garage. Slouching is, walking in a very lazily manner along through the underground garage. So in hospitals, in big hospitals, if you have ever seen, generally the entrance is from the, from the -1 floor, from the basement, from the garage where the cars are being kept. So that is the meaning that the people are walking, they are slouching along the garage, riding wordlessly on the elevator with the other customers. So customers, again I told you that here he goes on taunting the hospitals, that they just see you as a source of income, that's it. So this is what it is giving you the sense that the people, they have nothing to say. They are just in tension, thinking about expenses, thinking about their loved ones, how, I mean, they are just mixed sort of emotions, and therefore they are riding wordlessly. They don't have anything to say on the elevator with the other customers. So there are more people also, and they are customers. Why they are called customers, I've already told you. Staring at the closed beige doors like a prison wall. Beige, students, it's a sort of dull colors, right? So it is symbolic of restrictions, confinement, and monotony, that is sadness. Beige doors like a prison wall. So staring at the closed beige doors like a prison wall, it means that the patients, they cannot move, correct? They have to stay there only until they are perfectly all right. So they have nothing to do, no one has came to meet them, so they have nothing to do. They just have to look at the closed beige doors, and what it feels like, it just feels like a prison. So the overall meaning, the conclusion that I can derive from this stanza, that hospital is a place where you can be upset, you can be, uh, you know, in a bad mood, and no one will bother you. Correct? There, your gait, GAIT, is not observed. What is gait? Gait is the way of walking or posture. So because everyone is there in their own tensions, their own worries, so no one is watching you, what you are wearing, how you are walking, what tensions you have. So it's just a free place where you can have a time with yourself. Also, when we talk about the figure of speeches, at the last line we have simile, like word, and the comparison. Then okay, fine, we don't have any figure of speech now. We come to the second stanza. I like the hospital for the way it grants permission for pathos. So I like the hospital for again, in the first stanza he told that because it is all right to be in a bad mood there, so you can be upset over there, no one will come to ask you, no one will come to bother you. Again in the second stanza he puts forward that same point but in a different manner. I like the hospital for the way it grants permission for the pathos, expression of anguish, grief, sorrow. So again the sense is same, the meaning is same, that the people, they are not bothered about you, how you are feeling, why you are upset. So it's the hospital, by the way. So everyone is in their own, things. The mother with cancer deciding how to tell her kids. Now comes the references to different people, and now he goes on to explain that what all he saw while he was in the hospital. The mother with cancer deciding how to tell her kids. He might have noticed a lady suffering with cancer, and she was in trouble that how she should tell her kids that she's suffering from a disease, something which is known as cancer. The bald girl is a young girl gazing downward at the shunt installed above her missing breast. Shunt is a tube attached in a body to initiate the movement of blood and medication. So she is also looking at the gazing is looking downward because the shunt is basically attached to your hand. So she is also gazing, she is also looking downward at the shunt installed above her missing breast. So the shunt was installed where? Above her missing breast. The crone the crone in her pajamas walking with an IV pole. IV pole is the intravenous pole. I'll just show you the image. Crone is an elderly woman. See, this is an intravenous pole, and the pins through which these intravenous fluids are being injected is put onto your veins in your hand. So this is intravenous pole stand. So the crone in her pajamas, the elderly woman in her pajamas, she was walking with an IV pole, and I hope that you know what is an IV pole. I don't like the smell of antiseptic. So he goes on to tell three things which you don't like. First is the smell of antiseptic. Second, the air conditioning set on high all night. Third, the fresh flowers tossed into the waste basket. Waste basket is the dustbin. So whenever someone comes to meet you, he gives you a bouquet. He or she gives you a bouquet as a token of their love. What happens the next day? The flowers decay and you put it in the waste bin. And after some time, the flowers also, it gives a rotten smell. So he doesn't like that, the smell of the flowers and everything. So three things again you have to note it down. What he didn't like: first is the smell of antiseptic, second is air conditioning set on high all night, and third, the fresh flowers tossed in the waste basket. So three things he didn't like. The direct question can be asked. Please make a note of these 3 points. Fourth stanza we come to. It's of 6 lines. But I like the way some people on their plastic chairs break out, that is, take out a notebook and invent a complex, that is, complicated scoring system to tally up their days left on earth. So he noticed some people, they were having a, they were having a discussion, they were making a system which, according to which they can tally up their days on till which time that they are on this mortal world, this earth. So he is expressing that, okay, this all this I saw in the hospital while I was in the hospital. The column on the left says times I acted like a fool, that is the evil deeds done by the people. Facing the column on the right that says times I acted like the saint. So these are basically the good deeds. So a direct question can be asked that what uh, just explain about the complex scoring system that was made by the people to tally up their days on the earth. So what you will write, that the system that they created had 2 columns. The column on the left, it said, it told us about the evil deeds, that is having a title as times I acted like a fool. Facing the column on the right that says good deeds, titled as times I acted like a saint. Now the next stanza is something very important, and it is more often given for explanation. So please have all your focus over here. One more thing, in the last line of the third stanza we had alliteration. Please make a note of it. Then, I like long prairie of the waiting. What are prairies? Prairies are vast stretch of grasslands, no people around. So as prairies are lonely, solitude, in the same way the people, the patients also here are in a sense of solitude. No one is coming to meet them. They are also like, just waiting for someone to come. The forced intimacy of the self with the self, since no one has came to meet them, they have to be with themselves. They have to be intimate with themselves, and this intimacy is forced. Why? because ultimately no one has came. And what they can do now? They have to be with themselves only. They have no other choice. Each sick person standing in the middle of the field like a tree, wondering what happened to the forest. So each sick person there, over there, he was waiting that okay, fine, someone will come to meet us. But he was as lonely as a tree, standing in the middle of the forest. And imagine if a tree is in the middle of the forest, correct, and no trees there, only the grass and just a tree, and no tree all around, no bushes all around, just a single tree. Can you imagine how the tree will feel like? Lonely. Here, that is the sense. Just like that tree which wonders what happened to the forest, why am I alone? These people are also alone. These people are also wondering that why people have not came to meet us, to visit us. This stanza, it gives you a sense of loneliness. Similarly, in the third line, personification in the fourth line, because tree, what happened to the forest, tree will never think like that. So personification. Similarly, each person standing in the middle of the field, again comparison has been made. So yeah. And once I saw a man in a lime green dressing gown. Generally, the dresses of the people of the hospital, the patients, generally it is of lime green dress. It's a lime green in color. Hunched, that is seated over in a chair, a man. And he now recounts of a man who was not yelling at the doctors, first point. Second point, pretending to be strong. So he was not yelling at the doctors, he was not pretending to be small, or he was not even making a murmured phone call to his wife. So what all these three things the man was not doing? He was not yelling at the doctors, he was not pretending to be small, and he was not making a murmured phone call to his wife. These short points always mark in points, so that you should have the points ready, because these are some direct questions, pet questions that can be asked. So you should have all these points in your mind. But so he was not doing all those three things, but one, sobbing without shame. So generally it's a patriarchal thinking that men cannot cry, men cannot show his emotions to the fullest. Why? Man is not a human being. Everyone has a license to show their emotions. And generally whenever a man cries, or he shows up his or his emotions, the people take it as you know कि कमज़ोर है. Why? Does tears indicate your kamzori, weakness? No, absolutely not. So he, again, he signifies the people. He recounts of a person who was a different man. He was a man, but he was not believing in this patriarchal thinking. So he was not yelling at the doctors, he was not pretending to be strong, and he was not even making a murmured phone call to his wife. But he was the one who was sobbing or crying without shame. He didn't felt any shame while he was crying, pumping it out, pumping it all out from the bottom of the self. So whatever he was thinking, whatever emotions he had, he pumped it out. He showed to the people the overflowing bilge of helplessness and rage. The overflowing bilge of helplessness and rage. Rage is helplessness. Why? Because the people, they cannot do anything. Correct? They cannot go on to okay, you come to meet us, you come to meet us. People are busy in their own lives, and these people, they are in hospital, so they are also feeling like someone should come and meet us and feel us good, make us feel good. So that is the sense. Bilge is It's a pit. It's a, I mean, it's a filth where collection of extra water is take place. So it is almost the flat part of the bottom of the boat or ship, inside or outside, and there the the extra water it collects. So the overflowing bilge of helplessness and rage. So the overflowing emotions of helplessness, of rage, correct? Rage is anger, that you know, so alone and so frustration sort of thing. A man no longer expecting to be saved. So why he was crying? Because he knew that he is now not gonna be saved. So he knows that death is now knocking at his doorstep. And this stanza shows vulnerability. Vulnerability. But if you looked, you could see that he was holding his own hand in sympathy. So if you see this line, and if you see the second line of the fifth stanza, the forced intimacy of the self with the self. So these lines are connected. So forced intimacy, the people have to be with themselves only. And you see here also that he no one is here to hold his hand even. He has to hold his hand himself in sympathy, listening to every single word, and he was telling himself everything. He was talking to himself that okay, now I'm not going to be saved. And he was holding his hand himself to sympathize himself. So lonely. No one was there to you know, make him feel good or whatever the things are. So again, loneliness, isolation, these all are the things that you felt like the poem, in the poem. You have to think as per the perspective of the patient, correct? Now let's quickly go to the themes of the poem. Permission to feel. So the first theme that we can derive from the poem is permission to feel. That this theme reflects the understanding that hospitals are a place where people can express themselves to the utmost. They don't have to wear any mask, or you know, they don't have to hide their feelings. In outside world, normally people, they often wear a sort of mask, and their feelings to adhere to social norms, societal norms. But in a hospital setting, individuals are given full allowance to show their true emotions, whether it's fear, sadness, anger, rage, anything. It's a space that legitimizes vulnerability as encapsulated by the patient's various emotional struggles, human suffering and pain. So you have already number of instances in the poem. So this is your assignment, that you will give me the answer in the comment section. You will elaborate this theme, human suffering and pain, and not much, just 3 to 4 lines are enough. You can take examples from the poem or whatever. So this is your assignment for this time. Self reflection. The poem, it reflects, it illustrates how hospitals often became spaces for self reflection. The people are being given a reality check. In the face of life altering conditions, individuals begin to evaluate their past actions and choices. The they construct mental lists, reckoning with times they acted foolishly or saintly. This theme emphasizes introspection as a crucial step towards understanding oneself and reevaluating life's priorities. Loneliness and isolation. Self compassion. The man sobbing openly and holding his own hand in comfort. in the poem. It represents self compassion, a powerful theme in the poem. It shows that in moments of distress and despair, often offering kindness and understanding to oneself can be a coping mechanism. The man's act of self comfort suggests that there's strength in acknowledging and tending to one's emotional pain. Mortality, everyone has to go from this mortal world, and though not explicitly stated, the theme of mortality looms throughout the poem. The hospital setting, the illness, and the raw emotions all highlight the fragility of human life, the impermanence of human life, the temporariness of human life. Confronting mortality is an integral part of hospital experience, and forcing individuals to grapple with the impermanence is something which is temporary of life. Imagery, okay, fine, let's come to the figure of speech now. Let's just quickly discuss about the title of the poem, title analysis. The title of the poem is an unusual but an apt title for the poem. It seems that the poem is inspired by Tony Hoglan's personal experience. He was diagnosed with the pancreatic cancer and underwent surgery followed by chemotherapy sessions in hospitals of USA. He died of cancer in 2018 at the age of 64. So the poem is a first-hand experience of the poet in a hospital, especially a cancer. It's not word, it's WARD ward. It's a misprint. Apologies for that. That makes it quite poignant. I hope that you know the meaning of poignant till now. The title of the type poem is a satire and quite unusual. I don't know how it got misprinted. It's so the title of the poem is itself the title of the type poem is itself is that is satire and quite unusual. The title of the poem itself is a satire, satire, and quite unusual, as nobody ever wishes to visit a hospital except when there is a medical urgency. So here some words have been misprinted, so I'll repeat it again from the title. The title of the poem itself is a satire, satire, and quite unusual, unusual, as nobody ever wishes to visit a hospital except when there is a medical urgency. So this was all for the poem. If I have missed out any figure of speech, you can comment me down in the comment section. One more thing, the poet, I don't think I have expressed this. The poet, he have used vivid imagery throughout the poem, because the hospital setting, the man in a lime green dressing gown, hunched over in a chair. So all these things help you to visualize all those scenes. Secondly, you have hyperbole also, pumping it out from the bottom of the self. It's a sort of exaggeration, and it it emphasizes the depth of the man's emotional release, and it gives a sense of the extreme emotional state of a man. And similarly, metaphor personification, I have just told you. The hospital is described as a having a long period of waiting is metaphor. I hope that my explanation cleared all your doubts. If still you have any doubts, you can continue to ask your doubts in the comment section. I will try to answer it very soon. Thank you so much. This is all for today. Thank you so much.